of it looking at him. Yeah, of it looking at him out of the tree. And he's like, man, you could I couldn't tell if this thing was just waiting to pounce on me or if it was scared. He's like, I couldn't tell. It was just a gnarly look, eye to eye with this thing. But yeah, I think if I remember him right, I think it was about a 30-yard shot out of a tree, put it right in his heart, and dumped him. But he's a massive cat, really big cat. If you see, you can Google the photo. It's
You do a lot of stuff down around San Antonio, I figure, huh?
Mostly like South Texas, Texas-based, Texas primarily, but like we have stuff in Florida. We've done hunts in Nebraska and Colorado, Oklahoma, Louisiana. I mean, like we're out there.
Air rifle iguana hunt in Florida.
We can make it happen.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Python Cowboy.
Yeah.
Mike, he's a buddy of mine.
Really?
Yeah. We shot a PRS event together for SIG up in Wyoming a few years ago, and he was on my team. I was like, why do they call you Python Cowboy? He's like, shows me his Instagram. He's a nut.
I said we should have named our thing Make-A-Wish Veteran Edition or something. Like, if you can think it and dream it up, I'm like, all right, let's figure that shit out because we can probably do it.
That's cool. Yeah, there's a couple of different things that are on my check the block, like that I want to do. What was it Jack was doing in Louisiana? Nutra hunting. Yeah, they were in airboats with full auto suppressed ARs. I was like, I
was about to say that was my childhood. We definitely didn't have full auto suppressed ARs. We had like air guns and slingshots and gigs and
That's Luke's been trying to get me to go up to Colorado to do the mountain lion hunt.
Oh, with dogs?
With dogs. Yeah.
Oh man, that's on my list.
That's on my list too. Yep. It's up there.
I've never thought about it, and I've never actually been in a place where they actually have like hunting seasons. But is that to the point where they're hunting them with dogs now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And some of them, I mean, there's a lineage to it. There's like generations of families that raise the dogs and do the lion hunting, other predators too. Yeah. And there's a whole industry for it. Those ranchers contract them out to come and basically take care of all the predation so they can run livestock. And there's a group called Blood Origins that actually just did a really cool documentary on it because they're trying to outlaw lion hunting in certain states. You can guess who's trying to do that, but man, the documentary is amazing. They have a YouTube channel, Blood Origins, and you hear the stories from some of those cowboys that have been raising those dogs for 3-4 generations, and it's more about the dogs to them than the lion hunting. They just happen to trap a lion every now and then. Every now and then they happen to kill a lion, but it's really about the dogs. It's pretty
putting
cool.
that on my list to watch now. I'm texting myself that.
NFL player, played for the Broncos, Derek Wolfe.
Yes. He did.
He got a lot of backlash when he posted it on social media about lion hunting.
He killed a monster lion. He's 6'6". He probably walks around 280, 290 right now, and he's holding this thing in a bear hug, and its feet are on the ground. Yeah. And it was nasty looking. He told me a story about it. We were at an event in Montana. A buddy of ours that has a bladesmith. He had like a grand opening. And so I was like, man, I want to hear the story of this lion hunt. And when you hear him talk about the legend they heard about this lion before they even got up there, his buddy just called him and goes, hey, man, got some dogs. You want to go lion hunting? He's like, yeah, let's do it. And he runs a podcast in Denver, sports/outdoors kind of thing. And he actually was late getting to work because he was driving down off the mountain. And when he got there, this is when they were like, what have you been doing? Are you running late? And he's out of breath. And he's like, man, we just went on this lion hunt. And he starts talking about it. And, they were like, chill out, because they didn't know if all their viewership was into that.
Yeah.
But he said when they got there, they're poking around this town, small town in the mountains, and it's before dark. And he could see like a guy on this like wooden, I don't know, log cabin looking out his window at him. And he was like, and so he was trying to peacefully just put his hands up. And so the guy opens the door. He's like, y'all here for the lion? And he was like, well, yeah. And we saw some tracks out here. He was like, man, I thought that was the lion walking around on my porch. He's like, I'm glad it was you. And they was like, what? And he's like, man, this thing is big. And he'll come up underneath my porch, and people's dogs and cats are missing. And so then they've kind of worked their way through this town and tracked this thing, trailed it up into these foothills, and they ended up treeing it. He's got a great picture right before he shot it with his bow of it looking at him. Yeah. Of it looking at him out of the tree. And he's like, man, you could I couldn't tell if this thing was just waiting to pounce on me or if it was scared. He's like, I couldn't tell. It was just a gnarly look, eye to eye with this thing. But yeah, I think if I remember him right, I think it was about a 30-yard shot out of a tree, put it right in his heart and dumped him. But he's a massive cat, really big cat. If you see that, you can Google the photo.
You have to check it out.
Check it out. I got a whole list of things to do. But
it's big.
Anyways,
we got to get an intro here. We got to get an intro here.
So yeah, welcome to the BTO podcast, where we talk about everything. No, that's pretty. We got some homework to do now on some things. Anyways, I'm Ike. We have Chris here. And our guests today are Mike from Intrepid Care and Bo, and he works at some small little college that's down the road called Texas A&M. So in the athletics department over there, doing a handful of things over there. But so guys, thanks for coming down. Tell us a little bit about yourselves. And
yeah, my name is Mike Barker. I'm a 8-year Army veteran. I was a combat medic for 8 years. I worked physical therapy at Brooke Army Medical Center and the Center for the Intrepid for 14 years, rehabbing critically wounded service members from battlefield injuries, and just kind of became a way of wanting to give back and help people. So I've been in the nonprofit space for a long time, helping vets, and just continue to want to do that. And we started Intrepid Care last November after one of our service members passed away. Her name was Jules Gatica. She's a Marine Corps veteran, died in a car accident. And her dream was to start her own organization and continue to help service members. So I worked with the family and created Intrepid Care. And we're been off and running now almost for a year now, and just creating some events and helping veterans and just doing what we can to give back.
Awesome. Bo?
I love hearing it every time. I'm Bo Sandoval. I'm an assistant athletics director at Texas A&M currently in the strength and conditioning department. Been a strength coach for about 24 years now, so I've got a little bit of mileage, some different places along the way. The Olympic Training Center, University of Michigan, the UFC in Vegas, and then now in Texas, which has been nice in Texas. It's a lot closer to family for us. So to not have to buy 4 plane tickets every time you want to go see family and just jump in the car and go down the road, that's been a blessing that we just didn't know we were missing. And yeah, Aggie Land's been good to us. Obviously, a lot of demand to be successful down there. We've got a lot of programs, 16 programs that are trending very well right now. It's been fun to be a part of that. And I've interacted with a handful of veteran groups, nonprofit groups over the years with events, just a lot of times connecting athletes with vets and trying to provide them with a wow experience as groups just like Mike's are putting together events and things like that for them. It was actually a former fighter I used to work with that introduced me to Mike. He's like, man, you're in College Station. You got to meet Mike Barker. He's down there quite a bit. So he told me a little bit about his organization. And so first chance he got, Corey was down there pig hunting with him. And he was like, hey, you want to come watch him stab some pigs with a knife? And I was like, what? Like, I thought you were like rifle hunting. He's like, no, man, they walk up and poke him with a knife. I'm like, yeah, I got to see it. So went down, met Mike and some of his crew, and they actually had some vets there at the time. So they were in the middle of it, man. They were running an event. Super cool to see, hear those guys kind of jawing with each other and just have, it's deer camp, but also a unique group of individuals that have a thing in common with their history and their work history. So that was cool to see. And Mike was like, man, I want to get your contact and it'd be cool to link up on some stuff. And so he reached out a little while later and was starting to cook up this idea about a combat sport event. And I've spent about 15 of my career years around combat sports, wrestling, boxing, and MMA. And so like, yeah, what can I do to help? So here we are. And fortunately along the way too, I've met a bunch of fighters and have a great relationship with a bunch, and he knows a lot of the same guys. So just, we have a lot of the same mutual friends, and just like, how can we work together to, build something to create and,
further give back. So that's
and if you haven't already figured out, if you're listening to the podcast, you're both avid outdoorsmen.
Oh,
right?
For sure.
Both. Both hunt.
Was that little spiel before the? Is that going to get aired?
Yeah.
Pick up on that.
It's a good hook, right? Yeah, it's a good hook
for sure.
If I could find a way to make a living in the outdoors, I would be there. I'm just not good enough, and I don't shoot good enough. I don't kill big enough animals, but if I could, buddy, I would.
Yeah. So talk about your challenge you're doing right now.
Shoot to eat. Yeah. There's a company I've done a lot of business with building weight rooms over the years, Sornex. Shout out to Bert Soren and his crew over in South Carolina. But a few years ago, he kind of built a branch onto their brand called Sornex Outdoors because he knew a lot of his clientele, a lot of his colleagues are avid outdoorsmen from all walks of life, from spot and stalk hunters out west to tree stand hunters down south and out in the Midwest. And started running an event every year called Sornex Winter Strong, and it's in February every year. So it's cold. It's in the middle of South Carolina, and we go and we pitch tents, and there's like 500 of us that play Boy Scout over the weekend. And they run events. We do marksmanship events. We knife forge. We go jump in cold lakes. We do fishing tutorials. We do all kinds of stuff related to the outdoors, how to build fire with primitive tools. And anyhow, there's always subject matter experts from all over that come in and speak on those things. But after that, a couple years, started noticing a large contingency of the folks that attend are archers. And so archery hunters and some competitive archers, traditional archers, along with the compound guys. Not that we frown upon crossbows, but we don't really get those there. It's mostly compound and traditional. But so Bert kind of cooked up this idea last year. He's like, hey, we're moving into whitetail season. What if they've got a pretty good social media followings. He's like, what if we get on and we do this little thing? We'll call it Shoot to Eat. And basically you get up in the morning, cold bore. You can have a drink of water, but nothing else. Right out of bed. You take a shot, pick your distance. If you hit it, you get to eat breakfast. If you don't hit it, you don't get to eat breakfast. So basically, if you miss, then you famish, And so the rule is then if you hit the next morning when you get up, you got to back up a yard. You do it again. Next morning, back up a yard. So it's 15 days long. So you should be 15 yards deeper than what you started at. Of course, people put all kinds of spins on it and tweak around. I shoot in my backyard a lot, and I had 22 yards as far as I can go. So what I started doing, they pass out these Sornex Outdoors targets. They're stickers. You just stick them on your target. So what I started doing last year, since I couldn't max out my distance, I just started cutting this target down. Yeah. So I would take a ½ inch off every time. So it started about a little smaller than a pie plate, and it ended up about the size of a dime. And so I missed a couple breakfasts down towards the end.
Probably getting hungry.
But what it does is, man, it's fun, and you're interacting with guys because as soon as you film it, you're posting it, and there's hundreds of people posting on this site. So you're seeing kind of how everybody's doing it, where they're shooting. And it was cool because it adds a different layer of pressure of like focusing on your shot process. Once you miss breakfast a couple times and you're going to work, you're going to take care of your kids or whatever, you're like, dude, I don't want to miss breakfast. I'm a grumpy bastard if I miss breakfast. So it just makes you kind of dial in and focus your shot process, which we thought would be a really cool event leading right into whitetail season. Just get people dialed in, treat it more like a competition versus just going out there blowing arrows and wounding animals. And, well, this year has been interesting because Brian Trainer, who's a good friend, he's if you know the throwing world, he had his time where he was the cream of the crop as a thrower, and I can't remember if Brian qualified for an Olympic. I know he threw at a couple of Olympic trials. I don't want to quote wrong, but anyhow, great dude, big outdoorsman. I still got to get out to Colorado to go elk hunt with him, but he messaged me and says, hey man, for Shoot to Eat this year, how about this? How about we trade? I shoot. If I hit, you get to eat. If I miss, you don't get to eat. And same for you. If you miss, I don't get to eat. So we're swapping that way. That's a little different. Now you're like, you don't want to let your buddy down. You don't want him not to eat breakfast, right? So that was cool because I shot yesterday and this morning, and it adds a different little layer of pressure. But yeah, so shout out to Sornex Outdoors for putting that on. It definitely brings a bunch of guys and girls together on social media, and we kind of see each other and kind of jockey and talk shit back and forth too. But then ultimately, we're all just getting ready for whitetail season, which we're really excited about. So
it's coming up.
It's coming up.
Did you eat breakfast this morning?
I did. Yeah, Brian smoked one. He started farther than me. So
what distance was that? Where are you out, or is he?
I started at 18. I think Brian started at 45 or 50. But he's in Colorado. He's got a good stretch out there. And those Western guys are used to those longer ones.
Wow, that's a long.
My buddies will definitely shit on me. If I had the room, I would have to start at least 40. They'll shit on me for starting at 18, but that's all I get in my backyard.
Yeah, that's good.
So I'll have to start getting creative. Once I max out to my 22 yards, I'll start kneeling. I'll sit down on my butt. Got to make it difficult somehow. But.
So back to the focus. That was really cool. You were talking about that in the warehouse. I was like, I got to get that into the podcast. So Mike, what does Intrepid Care do? Like deep dive into it a little bit for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So Intrepid Care, we provide programs for veterans, service members, first responders, and their family members. Basically, sports, outdoors, recreation, getting people out of the house, enjoying life again, reintegrating back into society. And it's open to active duty, National Guard, reservists, honorably discharged veterans of any branch, any service, regardless of how you served, because I really feel like the most underserved community is the non-deployed service member who never got injured in combat. Like those people just kind of flap out there in the wind, right? Like there's things for Purple Heart recipients. There's things for combat wounded guys. There's things for, amputees, and there's things, multitude of people who have willingly, gone and sacrificed a lot for our country and, are totally into whatever they're receiving, right? Like I'm glad there's programs specifically for those people that serve that way. But then there's a whole group of people who either served in combat or didn't ever deploy that there's really nothing for them other than their VA, healthcare. That's, as we all know, is less than stellar. So trying to really just include those people. It's really just an inclusive organization is really all it is, and provides for those folks as well, that may not have those kind of opportunities to do some of the things that they want to be able to do too through the activities that we provide. I mean, we've done a little bit of financial assistance too, because, one of the most asked things that I get asked is, well, hey man, like I'm short on my car payment, or hey man, like, you rent's due this month and I don't have it. Right. So where do I go? And it's like, well, I know these organizations, they reach out to them and they're like, well, I don't qualify because I'm this, or I don't qualify because I'm that, or I haven't got my eviction notice yet. Well, it's like, why are we waiting to give somebody an eviction notice to help them out when we can just help them out now? Like if we're going to help them out anyway, why not just help them out? Right. So, we've done some of that kind of stuff too, where, just one of the things, right. And obviously the economy that we're in right now and jobs and things for veterans, just, it's not that great for everyone out there in the community. So we just try to be that beacon of light of, hey man, I may not be able to help you, but I'm going to try to find that help for you as well. So, man, I spend a lot of time on the phone. That's what Bo asked me on the way here too, man. He's like, how many miles you put on your a week? And I'm like, a lot, and it's just meeting with veterans, finding out where they're at and how we can be somewhat of an assistance, whether it's us physically helping them, like we've helped people move out of their house. Like we helped a guy that did get evicted. All of his stuff was in his garage, and we went and packed it up on a trailer and moved it to a storage unit for him. But he wasn't physically able to do it himself. He was a older veteran, and 4 or 5 of us went over there and packed up his whole garage and moved it to a storage unit for him. Just little things like that, you don't think are big things, but, for someone who's in that situation that has no capability of doing something like that, I mean, that could be, the difference between someone making a poor decision. Right. And that's really what we try to do, man, is just to be there as an advocate for veterans that, so they don't make a poor decision. The temporary problems in making the long-term solution, just that's always been my motive is to be that, right? Be that guy you can always call if you need someone to reach out to and speak. And I mean, I've been to veterans' house where they've had the gun on the couch and I was the first one through the door, and, I could have walked in on a suicide, or, you know, I got there before the cops got there and they took the pistol with them, you know, like I've been that guy. I've taken a guy down from hanging himself, you know. I mean, it's just, you know, when you build those type of relationships with veterans, you know before a lot of other people know that a bad decision's about to happen. So, that's just been my calling for whatever reason. I don't know why God chose me, but man, it's sometimes it's a heavy ruck to carry too. Yeah. You know, trying to be that guy for a lot of people.
So let's talk about. Go.
I was going to say, how'd you come up with the name? Like, we heard a little bit about the foundation story.
So I worked at the Center for the Intrepid. So you know, the name Intrepid is brave in the face of danger, and you know, all of the people that were wounded during service, you know, their time overseas, they come back to the Center for the Intrepid, and I worked there for 14 years. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears, not only on my side, and I think that's where Bo and I relate a lot too. You know, being the trainer side for high-level athletes. Well, I was the therapist for a bunch of high-level athletes that were in the military. You know, because they're very similar. The job's very similar. You know, climbing ladders up and down. You know, running on and off trucks, you know, I mean, you guys know as well, you know, it's when you're downrange, it's kind of like you're an athlete, you know, you're just a highly trained one hopefully with a rifle. And, you know, so being that in that role where you're the guy who's responsible for putting someone back together. And, you know, I really loved that time that I spent there, and I wanted to pay tribute to those that I served and treated by incorporating Intrepid into it, because you know, brave in the face of danger, and then providing care. You know, so I was a combat medic. I want to be able to provide care, and I do this because I care. You know, and that's what I wanted people to understand too. Is like, you know, I could go get a job doing physical therapy at a retirement home or outpatient orthopedic clinic, or, you know, do something different. But I really help veterans because ultimately it's because I care. You know, I care about making a difference in the lives of not only for them, but for their families as well.
Fantastic. Appreciate it.
Yeah. For sure, man. It's a labor of love, man. I tell people all the time, man, like, I literally do this because I love doing it. You know, there's, you know, just like, you know, being in the outdoors, I love doing that too. But ultimately I do the outdoors. I never grew up hunting. Like, I never hunted until I was out of the military. And I think I was 35, 36, and someone invited me as a veteran on a turkey hunt. And I was like, I've never been hunting before in my life. I don't even know what to do. And they're just like, just show up. You know, we got a shotgun and sit in the blind with us. And I'm like, all right, well, I have no idea what I'm doing, but if you can lead me to the water, I can pull a trigger, you know? Yeah. I mean, so I went on my first turkey hunt, and from there I was like, man, this is pretty cool. Like, then, you know, I was like, well, this would be kind of cool to have other people go do, and then started taking some veterans on some hunts. And there's a lot of veterans that can't shoot. I found that out too. But you know, it's just being there with a veteran when they shoot their first animal. Like, if they've never been hunting before, man, like I'm more excited than they are, you know, and I'm just like, man, like, this is awesome. So, you know, there's just the highs of, and then obviously, like, when you're sitting in the blind with a vet, man, like that one-on-one time that you get, you know, like, slowly those walls start kind of getting broken down and they're feeling more comfortable, you know. It's just kind of like the campfire, you know, the I forgot what you called it.
The hunt camp.
Scenario, yeah. You know, hunting camp environment where, you know, you get to be a dude and you just kind of get to be out in the outdoors. But I think that time in the blind sometimes, man, is just that time where, you know, man, I kind of feel comfortable sharing some of my struggle, you know, and, you know, and a lot of times too, like I share my struggle with a veteran so they feel comfortable sharing their struggle with me. So, so we, you know, just, and we have a, you know, granted, like, you know, I'm the guy, right? But at the same time, like, we have a bunch of other veterans that pour into this thing too and give their time and give their talents that they have. And, you know, obviously folks like Bo and Corey Anderson, who introduced us to, you know, to each other, and, you know, a whole bunch of people that are behind this thing and pouring into it to make it successful. But, you know, you get in that blind and you really just start kind of breaking that wall down, and you find out a lot of the things that are the struggle, right? Like, hey man, like I've got post-traumatic stress. My wife just left me. I got 2 kids. I just lost my job. I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. And it's like, those things don't come up if you don't have that one-on-one time, and you have that, time where you've broken down some of those walls where, I'm willing to share that struggle now, and now I'm ready to get help. And that's, to me, that's the part, like, as a veteran community, when a veteran finally gets to the point where they're willing to share the struggle and you're not there to help them, that's where, because that time leading up to sharing, whatever it is, whatever that, if it's times we spent downrange, if it's wife, kids, job, whatever the stress is that is going on, if someone shares that and no one's there to help them, that's where bad decisions, I feel like, get made. And just try to be that guy that'll sit and listen and be that resource. Basically, I feel like I'm just a resource for a lot of vets that I may not know the answer, but I'll go find it. Like, just know that you can always call me and I'll pick up. So
cool, man, really cool. What's one of the, speaking of cool stuff, I know we were talking about some hunting stories earlier. Yeah. What's your favorite hunt so far?
Man, I'm a hunt to eat kind of guy, right? So like cool trophies on the wall, they look cool and all that. It's always a nice reminder. But man, my favorite hunt probably was an oryx hunt that I did with another vet. He wanted to come down. We brought him down from Louisiana, and man, we tried to get this. I don't know if you ever shot an oryx, scimitar horn oryx.
Yep. Very skittish.
Very skittish,
very
but then
smart.
at the same time, like, trying to decipher between male and female is very difficult, because like basically it's just like a little button on their belly, which
they both have horns.
They both have horns, so just trying to decipher which one to shoot. And we hunted for 3 or 4 days long hours trying to find the right one, and finally he got it, man. And that was not only from just the standpoint of the hunt and just that time with him, but then at the same time, man, just some oryx meat is just phenomenal.
Delicious.
So I mean, just oryx steaks and ground meat, and I mean, it was so good to eat. So that was probably one of my favorite ones. And then we do this annual dog and knife hunt, which I think I've told you about, and you're going to come hopefully in January if you're available.
It's on the calendar.
We do a dog and knife hunt. So I don't know, we probably had 15, 16 veterans all on side-by-sides driving around the Carrabba Ranch up in College Station. And man, we drop the dogs early in the morning and start chasing hogs with dogs and chase them into the bush and put them down and stab them right in the heart. And it's literally the adrenaline of that hunt, man. Your heart's just racing, and kind of takes you back a little bit, a little bit of a deployed environment, nobody's shooting at you, but get your heart racing a little bit, that this is
every one of those guys that came out with a bloody knife. I mean, they were noticeably like swollen up, shaken.
Yeah.
Like right when they get back to this, crack a beer or light a cigar, like it was just like, whew.
Yeah.
And well, how was it? I'm like, man, I didn't expect it to be that intense. Like, it was
a pretty
intense.
big adrenaline dump,
Oh, big
for
time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't think so until you're actually the one running towards the hog, and then you walk in and then 2 guys have
hands on,
and it's chaos. I mean, you got one dog's got an ear, another one's got a leg. I mean, and they're just, you're walking into,
and then the hog's laying down, squealing like, and you just, and it's
intense.
It is, man.
It's not for the faint of heart. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome.
If you do it in August when it was 120 out, it would definitely be a combat experience. It would bring back
full
Iraq.
battle rattle, 110 degrees. Yeah,
Glad it's January.
Yeah, we're a little smarter. That's one great thing about doing your own thing is you can plan better than the military.
Yeah. We definitely enjoy the planning. We turn off our outdoor training calendar about the second week of May here in Texas. It's
like May to September.
May to September. You got to get me out of state. You got to
travel somewhere
sure.
or do an indoor range, or I'm not.
Yeah,
I've done that before.
We'll go to I'll go to New Hampshire in August and do it. They're like, oh, it's 85 here. I'm like, there.
Yeah, I mean, we do all kinds of crazy hunts, though, man. Like right now, even like today, we got 2 vets going up to Louisiana to do a thermal coyote hunt.
Oh, nice.
So, they start at 10 p.m. at night and go to like 2, 3, 4 in the morning and chase coyotes with thermals and suppressors and, try to shoot 3 or 4. And I mean, like we do all kinds of crazy stuff that, it's just like, this is really cool shit.
Yeah.
It's really fun, and it's like you're out there doing it with another vet, so now you're kind of bonding and building that relationship. And it's, we have some great supporters. So.
Yeah, I think earlier you said it's kind of like make a wish for veterans.
yeah, that's what I said, man. You dream it up, man. I'll try to figure out how to do it, and air rifles for iguanas,
Yeah.
It's like if you can,
we definitely got to get you in contact with Mike down there.
Yeah.
So
we can make that happen.
What other kind of events sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then you guys have actually taken them to sporting events as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, like we've done UFC fights, baseball games, basketball games. I mean, just getting out of the house. Like even actually, I was driving here on the way, and somebody was like, "Hey, I've got 2 tickets tonight to the Suicide Boys concert. I want you to send two veterans too." Nice. So I mean, concerts, entertainment. Just something to get out of the house with either another vet or a loved one or a family member and just have that time, I mean, it's that time that you don't have the kids and it's just can be the husband and wife or, something like we sent 2 vets to the Big 3 basketball game in San Antonio. And this guy took his kid, and was like, man, my kid had the greatest time just watching old basketball players, play 3-on-3 basketball. And, just that sometimes that time that you have, you don't think about, but then when you're in that moment, you're like, man, like this is valuable.
Yeah.
And, so we just try to create that,
Yeah. It's fun getting out to a sporting event like that. Even if you're not, I've been to, 2 dozen Astros games. I'm not the biggest baseball fan. Yeah. Like I have to who's that? Okay. I've heard of him,
for sure.
But a lot of the times, back in the day when I was I would come down and my wife's boss had season tickets to the Astros and it was really good, right behind the Astros dugout, 3 or 4 rows back.
Oh, dang.
And it was good seats. But he would look, hey, is Chris coming to town this weekend? She's like, yeah. He's like, hey, I'm not going. Take my seats.
For sure.
And that was cool to be able to go and experience it.
Yeah. When, we've done a lot of UFC fights. Justin Gagey's a good friend and supporter. And we've been to quite a few of his fights. And if you've never been to a live UFC fight, you got to go because there's literally no sporting event that I've ever been to. I've never been to the Super Bowl. I can imagine the Super Bowl is probably the same, but man, there is just an electricity inside of a UFC event live, especially when Justin fights.
Yeah, they know how to put on an event. That's
man,
for sure.
I'm telling you, like it is. And I've been to ones where he hasn't fought too, and it's just as good. So for whatever they're doing, it makes sense and it works because it's literally the best live sporting event that I've ever been to.
So go ahead. No, after you.
I was going to say, speaking of UFC fights and sporting events like that, y'all have an event coming up there in College Station here in a couple months.
Yeah, October the 19th. Yeah, we're doing a USA sanctioned boxing fight, amateur boxing. And it's at the Hall of Champions at Kyle Field, which is,
right there in Aggie Land.
Right there in Aggie Land where Bo works. And it's going to be a great time. We'll have... it's a tabled event, private event where you can come out and bring some buddies and watch some fights and support some vets. And we'll have some live auction items and some raffles and just different ways to support. But, this is our first one that we've ever done it's an actual full on fighting event that we're putting on. So it's really awesome.
And this is to raise money for...
Yep, for Intrepid Care. Yeah, it's a fundraiser for the organization for us to be able to provide more opportunities for veterans and service members and their families. And we added first responders as well, just because, we're very big on, just because you don't go down range doesn't mean you can't be serving your community. So we wanted to offer things to that community as well. So I think it's... should be a fun one.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
I'm all for boxing.
Tell us a little bit about the hall.
Ford Hall of Champions is it's basically a giant expo area that's down on the ground floor of the stadium. I mean, A&M, we use it, athletics, for anything from all staff meetings to galas to dinners. And it's an awesome space. It's shaped like a big football. It's got some incredible ambiance, tall ceilings, the how we're going to be able to do production and the walkouts and the ring and everything. It's going to be a cool, very intimate setting. So when you hear fans that go to a fighting event, typically, like, it's a very different experience sitting on the floor versus sitting up in the nosebleeds. And we almost have that offered all the way around the ring. Is almost a ringside experience, even if you are back a little bit, just because it's such a tight little spot. I remember there was an event that we hosted. I think it was at the Palms Theater. It was a smaller fight card, but Israel Adesanya was on that card fighting Brad Tavares. And this is when Izzy was still kind of making his rise in the UFC. And so, but this little arena was tight. We even had to put up a smaller cage. The typical cage is 30 by 30, and this one was 25 by 25. But the fans were right on top of it everywhere. There wasn't a bad seat in the place. The Ford Hall of Champions reminds me of that because it really kind of puts you into it. When you think about amateur boxing too, a lot of these are strong up and comers they're vying for increasing or improving their position in the rankings and things along those lines. So, their families and their small supports and their cornermen and things like that, it's going to be a really cool environment for them because it's going to feel big. It's going to feel like they're at Madison Square Garden just because it's going to be tight. We're going to provide a lot of energy. A lot of the folks that are going to be there are going to want to be there, one, because they're a fight fan, but also they're highly passionate about supporting Intrepid Care. So it's we're looking forward to it. It's going to be badass. Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty exciting event.
I can't wait, man.
Yeah.
I keep checking off the days to get there. So
it's coming. Yeah.
How many? Do you know how many fights are scheduled on that?
I think there was like 30. Wow. Yeah. Just because they are shorter fights. Like some of them are 3 1-minute round fights, right? So you can do quite a few fights there. So I think there was around 30 total fights, just depending on how many guys are ready to fight at that time. And we have a Windy City Boxing or Windy Boxing Club is helping us get the fighters together. It's a local boxing and MMA gym there in College Station as well that is helping coordinate the fights and all that kind of stuff while we put the whole event together. But they're helping with the card, and so they're getting the fighters together, and hopefully we'll see some knockouts.
Imagine that's a pretty big undertaking, trying to coordinate 60 people's different schedules. Like I've never even looked into setting up a fight, but just thinking the logistics side on the back end, it's got to be pretty intensive.
Yeah, it's putting the whole thing together is quite the ordeal. We've had 2 or 3 meetings at A&M already and walked the space and taken measurements and trying to figure out all the logistics, but
it's pretty cool that they're letting y'all use that venue. That's got to be.
I was going to say, Mike is also very good at getting in touch with super key people that have talents in certain areas, and so some of our supporters for this event, I was amazed at how quick of a phone call it was for them to get us access into the Ford Hall of Champions, because that's way outside my wheelhouse, and then how supportive each of them are. So while it is tedious putting all those pieces together, he's got 3 or 4 counterparts that kind of have some areas on lockdown, and it was like, oh, you need this? All right, I got you. I got a production guy. Oh, you need that? Oh, I got an audio guy. Oh, I need food? Okay, yeah. That has been pretty cool to watch that just sort of blow up in front of you.
How many seats are you filling?
I think we have the opportunity.
It's like 800?
800 to 900.
Okay. Yeah, 800 to 900, I think. Just there's, obviously I think there's 74 tables of 10 and 8. And then there's like 250 kind of standing room only. There's a second level in the Ford Hall of Champions where it's like a standing room only. So you're actually
it's a really
looking,
cool balcony area. Like I said, it's kind of shaped like a football, so you're kind of wrapped around the ring.
Yeah, and you're you're looking right down into the action too. So, I mean, I think those are actually going to be pretty good.
That sounds like a pretty cool seat.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's...
and then, I mean, if you want to sit at a table with your buddies, and we're going to be doing some gifts and things obviously they're paying a nice price for those tables. So, but there's some goodies on the table there as well. And, some people want to be right there feeling sweat hit them and stuff. Yeah. So,
yeah. So, I mean, if anybody wants to support or get a table or, get a ticket, they can always reach out to us and we can help steer them in the right direction.
Mike's already begun posting flyers and kind of showing. We'll be pushing that more too on social media and
for sure,
along with some of the auction items that are going up as well, just to try to buzz some energy around to get folks interested.
Can y'all?
Go for it. You're me and you are on the same track today, bro. So go ahead and ask the question. That's all.
Can y'all talk a little bit about like maybe some of the auction items or pricing, or do you know off the top of your head, or? Or we can direct them to the website too if that's easier.
I mean, so there's different packages obviously for tables. If you want to be ringside, it's $10,000 for a ringside table, but at the same time you get a lot of swag, and we're doing some custom items for those folks, and some different branded type of things for that. And then obviously it tiers down $5,000, $2,500, $1,000. So for $1,000 to get in the door with 8 of your buddies, pretty affordable.
That's a pretty legit deal.
For and then obviously the funds are going to help and raise money, and but at the same time you're getting to see a bunch of live boxing action up close and personal, and it's a really cool venue, and
support a great group for a really good cause.
So that's the table pricing, and then I think we did $100 a ticket for standing room only. If you want to do just stand up there and watch fights, $100. And then I know we've got a trip to Africa, African safari hunt donated already, and working on some other items, I think.
We've got a custom hand forged knife from Neil Kamimura out in he's a Kamimura blacksmith out in Hawaii.
Yeah, you were telling me about him last time you were here. Talk about that. That's cool.
Neil, you have to look Neil up. I definitely can't tell his story in this podcast. It'd take us 3 days, but extraordinary blacksmith. He's a Japanese Hawaiian. His grandfather was a bladesmith, blacksmith, and he didn't find it till later in his life. He was having his own struggles and things, and someone gave him an old anvil that had belonged to his grandfather, and had an old, actually original sign that hung on his shop in Kona, or on the Big Island, that said Kamimura blacksmith, and it just kind of inspired him. He's like, I need to figure this out. And so started beating on metal. Now, he had done a lot of metal fabrication with motorcycles and custom cars and stuff before, so definitely mechanically inclined. But once he found that, he just kind of took off. And I want to say within his first year, he got invited to go on to Forge and Fire and won the whole damn thing. And then they invited him back for their Circle of Champions. He started making more custom knives. He's really well known for his chef knives. His chef knives are purchased by some top tier culinary experts all over. He just did a show with Gordon Ramsay not too long ago. He's been all over the place now, but anyhow, he makes knives with Zach Brown. He's got a custom line he does with I think it's called Southern Grind, is Zach Brown's brand of cutlery, but he does make some hunter knives. He makes some amazing swords. You're going to wait a while if you order a sword from him, but it's all hand forged. I mean, the guy puts 120, 130 hours into some of these pieces, but they are not only aesthetically just amazing and beautiful, durable. He's known for durability. If he makes you something, it's not going to break. It's going to cut the shit out of something. And I mean, he makes cleavers. He does all kinds of, they've got all the different styles of kitchen knives. I'll butcher all the names, but I know chef knife. But between the paring knives, and he's made fillet knives. But check him out. It's really cool. It's cool where he's at because the handle material that he gets, he's getting these ancient Kona trees that are there, and they've got a mill right there on the farm, and they're milling this stuff out, and then they're going and they're heat treating it, pressurizing it, and when you look at some of the handles he puts on these things, it blows your mind. You're like, that's wood? No way that's wood. And he'll layer in different like bead materials or different bone materials. He has done some bone handle knives. He makes a lot of knives for Jason Momoa, and a lot of his like film knives and things like that. So yeah, really interesting guy, interesting background as a fabricator, but then also he's just an amazing artist when it comes to making really sharp stuff that'll slice you up. So
that's what I was going to say. It's like they're literally like works of art.
Yeah.
And they also are really sharp.
And you can, and he tells me when I buy a knife off him, he's like, bro, okay, I know you think it's pretty, whatever. Use the thing. Like, get it bloody, get it patina, like, you know, let it do what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to age like whiskey, you know, like let it do its thing. And, but his knives are amazing. And so to get your hands on one of those, which is tough, if you just call and you try to custom order, your average wait time is about a year for him. And then he does do knife drops. So he'll make small batches and drop them. They sell out in like 35 seconds. So it's like, good luck. I mean, he'll give an announcement on his newsletter. Hey, I'm making a drop. And he'll drop 5 knives and they're gone in less than 30 seconds. So it's pretty cool to be able to auction an item like that off. We know it'll draw. There's some knife junkies out there and collectors. He does a lot of shows in Texas as well. He comes out to Blade Show and does a lot down here. I know he collaborates with a couple of good leather guys down here as well on sheaths and things like that. He loves Texas. So when I asked him about it, he was like, I'm really nervous about asking him stuff because the dude's busy. He's up to his neck in requests and things. Because it had to do with this cause, because it had this affiliation with the veteran community, I knew it was worthwhile to mention it to him, and he jumped all over it, and he's really excited about it. So,
yeah, so we'll have one of those custom knives there for sure. And we're slowly gathering some other items, you know, and then, bid high, bid often. That's what I always say.
Yeah, the folks down at Bravo Concealment, and I think they're in San Antonio. They threw out a bunch of gift cards for, you know, holsters and accessories and all kinds of stuff. So they're really, if we just mention it, it's been great. People are just like, yeah, let me see what I can do to help. And they like the idea of the fight event. They love his organization. I mean, ever since they start looking it up, they're like, yeah, what do you need? So that has been really welcoming and cool to see. So it'll be really cool when we see that place filled up and everybody's kind of anticipating the first punch. So,
and this is your first big fundraiser like this,
for sure. Yeah, no, first one, and hopefully first of many, because we want to make this an annual event. Yep. And you know, we do other ones too, golf tournaments, and you know, just other things to raise money. We've working with one of our guys in Florida. He's doing like a volleyball tournament. You know, I mean, just different ways to, you know, use sports outdoors recreation activity to raise money, but then to turn that money back into programming for veterans. So, it's just getting it rocking and rolling. So it's
and only. You're a little over a year old now, huh?
We'll be a year in November. Yeah, November 16th. Wow. So
congratulations.
Yeah. So
it's a pretty rapid growth there. Like it seems like it's taking.
Fortunately, in some walks of life, you run into a lot of good people, and you meet a lot of the people that really have a heart for veterans and want to do good things. And I've been fortunate to run into a bunch of those. So, just people that really want to pour into making this thing successful. And you know, sometimes it's not who you know, but what you know, but who you know. And fortunately, I know a lot of good folks that have a lot of passion for this. So,
how many people do you have affiliated with your organization right now?
There's probably like day-to-day people that are actively, putting in time to either help veterans or programming or fundraising and all of that. There's probably 75 to 100 people that are behind this thing, trying to make it grow. And it, obviously we're San Antonio based, based in Texas, but I mean, we do things across the country, planning things across the country. And, Corey Anderson wants to do a golf tournament in Illinois, so it's like, all right, well, Corey Anderson, who's currently the Bellator light heavyweight champion, wants to do a fundraiser in Illinois. You figure out how to do a fundraiser in Illinois, right? So, so I mean, that's the thing is people are like, hey man, like I want to be a part of this. CJ Vergara, who fights in the UFC right now, he fights out of San Antonio. He's like, man, like he's like, I don't really know anything about golf, but he's like, you know, I play a lot of poker, and I know a lot of people that play poker. He's like, why don't we do a poker tournament in my name and, you know, make it a fundraiser? And I'm like, yes, let's do that. You know, so it's literally people just come up with ideas, and I'm like, all right, man, like let's run with it. You know, I mean, it's like, if that's your passion and that's what you like to do, then why not? Right. If you know the people, and, you know, we can put it together and raise a little money to help veterans, like let's do it. So, you know, it's just all kinds of stuff.
Ideas blow. I'm thinking like 3D archery tournament.
Yeah, for sure. See, Luke Cadillo wants to do something like that. You know, yeah.
He's been peer pressuring you the whole day about archery
because he's got it. He's geared up now. So, he's had someone incredible show him how to shoot it, and it's like, so we just got to nudge him a little bit.
Here's the backstory on that. You know, I'm a very avid Texas hunter. Emphasis on Texas.
Yeah.
You know, drive to the blind, sit in the blind, wait for the animal to come to the feeder, shoot it. Right. I mean, that's how I like to hunt. That's how I learned. Yep. And that's what I like to do. You know, just sitting in a tree stand, waiting for an animal and subarctic conditions, and that just doesn't sound fun to me, just because I've never done it, and, you know, it just looks miserable. So, you know, one of the nice things about not being in the Army and someone telling you to sit in a tree in sub-zero weather, it's like, I don't have to do that. So, you know, I'm a very South Texas hunter. You know, 100, 150 yards, I'm locked in, and comes in, I lay it down, right? So Corey Anderson, you know, he's a huge bow hunter and very much into shooting his bow. And I got a bow given to me, you know, by PSE to start shooting, right? And Corey's like, hey, man, like, when are you going to put that bow together? And this has probably been 2 years, right? It's been sitting in my office, like, just never put it together. And he's like, he actually just bought a new side-by-side about 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. And he was like, every time we go hunting down there, he's like, we drive your truck and we use somebody else's side-by-side. He's like, I'm going to donate my side-by-side to you guys. So anytime you guys take a veteran hunting, you guys always have a side-by-side to use to take them hunting. So all we had to do was drive up to Indiana, put it on the trailer, and bring it back. And so now we actually have a side-by-side to use anytime we take vets hunting. So that's awesome. Huge shout out to him for doing that. But, you know, he's a bow hunter. He was on me. He's like, just bring your bow when you come to get the side-by-side, and I'll put it together. So
he's got a bow shop on site.
Yeah, he's got a whole bow shop there. He put the sights on it and all that. And then he's like, well, now we got to go out and shoot it, right? And I'm like, dude, I've never shot a bow before. So he's got a whole range out there. And I mean, I don't know if it's beginner's luck or it just happened to be good, or he's just really good at putting a bow together. But I mean, I'm at 20 and 30 yards, you know, hitting ringers, and he's just like, holy shit, like you're good at this. And I'm like,
they say there is some connectivity with, if you're good with projectiles, you're good with projectiles. Yeah. There's a little bit of skill development. You know, you got a good instructor, and someone would put some good equipment in your hand. Yeah. So, but you know where to find.
Yeah. So I mean, just in that 15, 20 minutes of taking my first, I don't know, 15, 20 arrows, you know, I was hitting heart shots and lung shots at 20 and 30 yards. And he's like, dude, like, you're actually pretty good at this. Like, you need to shoot more often.
Yeah. There's fundamentals that apply.
Sure.
We did that, a previous employer, they have an indoor archery range, right? Yeah. And they have he's like in the Texas Archery Hall of Fame instructors. Wow. There. And he's like, Chris, come here. He's like, grab this. This is what you do. Blah, 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 blah. He's like, right there. Do it. Now do it again. Do it again. Do it again. See, I told you. And he's like, it was like, it's sights and trigger. Yeah. You know, when it breaks down. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So now I'm learning how to become a archery shooter.
You can still sit in a comfy blind and shoot a bow.
I'm all for it. Yeah. I'm all for it.
You used to do it. You used to be pretty big in the archery, weren't you? For a little while?
For a little bit. Yeah.
The guns took over your life.
Took over. Cooler.
Yeah. This.
Yeah, and I don't think that I'll ever not be a gun guy. Just because that's just who I am. But
archery's fun. It's a lot of fun.
That's what I'm saying. Like I think
it's definitely therapeutic.
Yeah, I think that's where I was just going to go with.
You got to slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's like a little bit of a physical aspect to it.
There's a little bit of a physical aspect, but you really can't focus on anything else, or that arrow will go all over the place.
Oh yeah.
And so it is. It's humbling in that regard. And it calm you down. It just takes your mind off everything else. You can't focus on anything else but that. So yeah, it's
kind of like we've been in the mid-range, long-range game here in the last 2 years, shooting a lot more distance because
that'll get you to calm down.
Yeah, you really gotta.
Yeah,
there's some similarities there. For sure.
It's a lot of fun. I don't need another. I don't need another hobby.
I don't need another hobby, man.
It's not a cheap one either. Let me tell you.
Not.
Yeah, it's not.
Barrier of entry is pricey. Then once you're in, it's not so bad. As long as you don't just losing arrows all over the place.
Spend a lot of money real quick on some archery stuff.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, you can. But they try to make it like everything else with guys, right? They try to turn it into like the guy's Barbie doll. So you got to get the new sight, you got to get the new strings, and you got to get the new dampeners and the new whatever, like new release, and So they nickel you like that, but
yeah. So the plan is now that I have this bow and I've been shooting, I made a deal with Corey that next year at Total Archery Challenge in San Antonio, that I would be proficient enough for him and I to go shoot at TAC together. And then we obviously invited Bo to come shoot on our team as well. So the three of us plan to go shoot TAC next year in San Antonio. Hopefully I'm good enough to not suck and bring the team down.
That's a cool event too, because down there, TACs are all over the country, but down there too, they do it around where the caverns are.
Yeah.
And so there's some cool trailheads. And it's a desert, whereas like they're normally doing them like in Park City and in Big Sky, Montana. So these beautiful rolling hills and mountains, and you're riding a gondola up. Whereas this is different. You're like in this rocky desert, and it's just a cool landscape change for a lot of those archers that travel around and do the TAC stuff. But.
So that's the plan. We're going to shoot it next year. I think it's
it's usually March, April.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. So. Yeah.
And Bo was talking about he's like, hey man, how do you like those little Garmins?
Oh yeah,
yeah. We love those little Garmin.
Yeah,
they're phenomenal.
We're kicking, like I was saying, we're selling 30 to 40 a month at least of them, and the one that we have.
Well, it's better than anything else on the market. Yeah. Like it does. Yeah. It's so much smaller. It does everything. You can do archery, you can do pistol, you can do rifle. Yeah, like you can do everything, and it's so small, it's stupid easy to use. Like I can figure it out. So like it's.
Josh uses it almost every day.
Oh yeah.
Because
velocity testing and stuff.
Doing velocity testing on stuff at the range.
I mean, every ballistics video I look at now, they got it sitting on a bench. Yeah. And I'm just like, man, I guess that thing's pretty decent. You know?
It's so small, you can just throw it anywhere. Yeah. Like it's phenomenal.
Not having the big,
Yeah, you got the big,
And you got to shoot through it and not kill it.
We took it to the last Bruiser class that we did. And like part of that is getting, like a good 4 hours of Joe's class is like how to learn the ballistic app, right? Mm-hmm. How to like build your gun, enter all your data in there. And if you're going off that box, the feet per second of what the box of ammo says,
it's not right.
You're not right.
No.
At all.
That's a certain elevation, a certain barrel length, certain atmospheric conditions.
Everybody's running. This dude, I'm running a 14.5. He's got an 18-inch. That guy's got a 16-inch.
I'm at a 1 and 9 twist. He's at a 1 and 8.
Yeah. And we're all throwing different stuff. And so like being able to go down that line and be like, hey, all right, shoot. I think Josh even did a couple guys that didn't know he was chronoing them or didn't ask for it. And he just sat down and he's like, all right, your median's, 26.4. You're good. Like, okay, cool.
You can export that data too.
That's awesome.
So you can just
have Bluetooth it, all that stuff. So
cool. That's awesome.
BTO podcast brought to you by Garmin.
Garmin.
Yeah, that's my next. That's my next purchase for sure.
Get sponsored by Garmin.
When we were walking the warehouse, I saw them sitting on the shelf. I'm like, well, I know they don't sell shit unless it's worth their time. Yeah. So that's why I asked about it. But
they do really well. They do really well. And if you're going to the range and not putting it there, if you're sitting on a bench shooting, you're just losing data every time.
Yeah,
losing data. But anyway. Where can people find information about Intrepid Care Foundation?
Intrepid Care, we're on Facebook, Instagram. our website, intrepidcare.org. We're out there doing things all over the place. So check us out. Go on all the socials and check out our website. And we're probably doing something around somewhere. We're at Texas Trophy Hunters this weekend in San Antonio. We were in Dallas last weekend, or Fort Worth, Houston the weekend before. We have a great partnership with Texas Trophy Hunters as well. So, that we just filmed a hunt with them, a dog and knife hunt, a second dog and knife hunt we filmed with Texas Trophy Hunters. So we have another partnership with Texas Strong Outdoors where we're going to film some veteran hunts with for the Pursuit Channel. Okay. We're out there doing some cool stuff and just making a difference. That's the plan.
Pretty awesome. Pretty cool. Well, thank you for introducing me.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that.
Yep.
Good looking forward to this event. And
man, shout out to Nate Young for bringing me around here and meeting you guys. And I just kind of, he whispered in my ear like, hey, I think this might be a good group to introduce to Intrepid. And so, as soon as I walked in the front door, I could tell right away. But appreciate the hospitality and the willingness for sure.
Anytime. I appreciate your time today, guys. Thanks for driving in. Thanks for driving down. Thank you. And if you've watched the whole podcast, check them out at their website. All the links are down below. We'll also have links to the event. If you're going to be there, you're probably going to see some people you recognize at the event as well. Let us know in the comments what you thought of the podcast. You can find us on 2 channels on YouTube on the Big Tex Ordnance Podcast channel, on the Big Tex Ordnance let me rephrase that. You can find us at the Big Tex Ordnance Podcast on YouTube. You can find us on the Big Tex Ordnance channel on YouTube. You can find us on Rumble now. Thank you. And Spotify, Amazon, Apple, all the things. Listen, download, subscribe, leave us a review. Did you know we have 65 reviews on iTunes?
Really?
Yeah.
We went from 0 to 65.
65.
We mentioned it.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Nobody had reviewed us for forever, and finally, I
started reviewing. Yeah, there's some really good reviews on there, and specific episodes and stuff. But got on there yesterday or the other day doing podcast stuff, and we had 65 reviews on there.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Review us on Rumble now.
There you go.
Find us on Rumble, whatever that is.
Just get like 5 different devices and play them all at the same time.
All the same time. Please do that. It would help our numbers a lot. Anyway, thanks for watching, listening, and downloading. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.